am a reformed pet owner whose dog used to get ear infections all the time. And just by doing these two simple things, from the person whose dog was getting ear infections all the time to the person who's just now simply preventing my dog from getting ear infections. I think the key to preventing ear infections is to, first of all, you just have to know the signs and what your dog is doing. They're showing that they have an ear infection, because it's not always so obvious. If your dog is just scratching, particularly their ears, you see like the whites of Luke's ears right here? So when he starts scratching his ears a lot, this will turn entirely red. And that's important because most people think that, their dog, if they're scratching a lot, they're like, oh, Luke's dirty, let me just go ahead and give him a bath. He could have a dirt buildup like somewhere on his body, but if they're scratching their ears a lot, that pretty much indicates that they are having something going on with their ears more that meets the eye. So definitely consider that, that is one way to find out that they have an ear infection. The second thing that indicates that your dog has an ear infection is if they're kind of like shaking their head from side to side like this. I know it's really cute, but it's actually not something that dogs should really be doing. If they're shaking their heads like this back and forth, that means that something is in their ears causing them discomfort. So sometimes, like back in the day when Luke would get a lot of ear infections, he would shake his head like from side to side. That is not normal, and your dog should not just be like, kind of shaking their head like. The last indicator that your dog has an ear infection likely is if there is some kind of smell coming from them that you just like aren't used to. When your dog stinks, like that's one smell, but like if you smell just something like odd coming from them, sniff their ear. And if their ear stinks, like seriously, that is like one of the common things that happens when a dog has an ear infection. So sniff their ear and look inside, and you'll be able to tell like, okay, these three things are happening. I likely need to go to a vet, figure out what's going on so that I can treat this ear infection, because there's different kinds of ear infections in dogs. Bacterial, there's fungal, there's different kinds of treatments for different kinds of ear infections. So once you identify that they have an ear infection, then you can focus on, okay, now what kind of like medication or medicine or rinse or wash do they need so that you can go ahead and get it fixed. All right, so with that being said, let's get into these two things that you can do to prevent ear infections in your dog.
Number one, if your dog, especially if you have a Bulldog, is having ear infections, it's likely what they're eating. So you may want to research the ingredients on the back of their dog food or check their diet and see what they're eating.
Yeah.
Now, you told me that something I never knew.
Yeah.
Luke is allergic to chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is really common in Bulldog breeds. Now, I've had Luke for 7 years. Luke's about to be 8 years old later this month, actually. So he's had his fair share of ear infections. I've gone through back and forth of just battles of, trying to figure out what is wrong with Luke. And so in my research, I found that chicken's like the cheapest option, right? So I don't proclaim to be the richest person in the world. So when I'm buying my dog food, I'm on a budget. You know what I mean? So when I'm on my budget, I'll go straight to the cheapest dog food. And at the time, that was chicken. My thinking was that like, if I buy him chicken dog food, because it's the cheapest, maybe I can buy him like the best brand of the chicken dog food. So I started buying him this like, Nutrish, and that's the brand we still use today.
Right.
The Nutrish Rachel Ray chicken dog food. He likes it, but the way that his body reacts to it was kind of like indicating that there was something wrong with the chicken. That's when I started doing a lot of research, and a lot of people say that, with French Bulldogs, a lot of them are allergic to chicken, and you should switch them to like either a lamb diet. That one has less allergic reactions in French Bulldogs, or salmon, which I switched to. So that's what he eats still to this day.
I remember I did that. I bought him chicken dog food.
The Rachel Ray brand,
Right.
like same brand that I buy, but instead of salmon, you bought chicken.
Yeah, and I remember buying that Rachel Ray brand of dog food, the chicken, and I brought it home and you were like, no, babe, he can't have chicken.
Yeah.
So I had to go back to the store and get the salmon for it.
Mm-hmm. But now, that's what he likes. And like every time I know you feed Luke pretty much in the morning and in the evening, like you feed him 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And like he loves his dog food. Even though Rachel Ray's brand has so many different varieties, like, oh, it's like, try this, your dog might like this. I like to stick with what I know is not causing his ears to, be infected. And I'm good with that. On that note, I also want to just talk about how stressful I know it can be to switch your dog's food. So like, imagine that you were going through this right now with me, because I went through this, when I was single and I had Luke, and he was just having ear infection after ear infection, and it was pretty expensive for me to try to find the best dog food for him. So I know that, like, me saying, oh, think about switching from chicken to salmon, which means that you'll have to think about spending more money because salmon is more expensive than chicken. And then you also have people who will say that kibble is not the best dog food for dogs because it's pretty much not real meat. They like kind of dry up the salmon and put it,
so it's highly processed.
But I'm doing what is within my budget to do. So if it's in your budget to buy or even make salmon for your dog, do that, whatever you are able to do within your budget. But if you can only afford to buy kibble for your dog, don't let these people make you feel bad for feeding your dog kibble. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. And when we were in Jersey and he was having his whole ear infection situation, I did try one of those companies that, like, they mailed you fresh dog food. It smelled so bad. It was like raw salmon. It was terrible. Now, Luke loved that dog food. I'm not gonna lie, he loved it. Like, you could tell, like, he looked forward to that way more than he looks forward to eating now. But it was just too expensive. Once I ran out of coupons, once I ran out of promos, once I ran out of email addresses to, like, try this, get 10% off. Like, once I ran out of that, I just went back to kibble. And Luke is fine. What I learned is not that kibble is bad. I learned that I need to stop feeding him chicken and start feeding him salmon. And that's what works for us, kibble or wet dog food. Number 2 is to regularly clean your dog's ears. And I think this sounds like a no-brainer, but when you really think about it, I feel like there's a lot of dogs and dog owners walking around who don't clean their dog's ears as frequently as they should. And I just want to encourage you that if you clean your dog's ears regularly, that will seriously help prevent the ear infection. In the beginning, I thought that, like, oh, let me just clean his ears whenever I'm giving him a bath. But you don't have to wait until you give your dog a bath to clean their ears. You can literally do it like anytime. I actually think for Luke it feels good. I think he likes a little ear massage that I give him every time that I do this ear wash. So this is what we use. It's called Vet's Best. I know you like the way this smells. It smells like, so it has witch hazel and tea tree oil. So whenever I use it on Luke's ears, you kind of just like, it's this overpowering smell of tea tree oil. But I usually have like 1 or 2 of these around the house just because, like, or when I go to a pet store, I'm just always like, do I have ear wash at home? And like I said, I don't wait until it's bath time to use this. So just get into the habit of maybe before or after a walk. If you have a Bulldog especially, cleaning their ears with this, like at least once a week or at least every 2 weeks. And so the way that I do it, now I usually like to do this outside because once you put the wash in your dog's ears, every dog is going to shake it out. That's another thing, it makes the inside of their ears like, really wet. So you have to not only let them shake it out afterwards, but go in after with like a cloth or something to dry their ears out. The environment inside a dog's ear that's wet, it breeds bacteria. So you want to make sure that you dry the dog's ears like as well as you can so that it's not breeding that bacteria and keeping a moist environment. So here's how I do it. And like I said, it doesn't even take 5 minutes. It's like really quick to do. All you do is, first of all, before you even go to use this, just inspect your dog's ears. Just take a look inside and see. I'm looking inside this ear and I can see a little wax, but it's really not that bad. But there is a little bit there. And then looking inside this ear. What, Luke? I'm not about to do it. Yeah, looking inside that ear is like pretty clean. Then once you are ready to go, you shake up your bottle of ear wash and then you'll pour it in the dog's ear. You want to make sure that they're as still as possible, but this is kind of awkward for a dog, especially because they can't see what you're doing. It's just something that you'll have to get comfortable with and they'll be like, okay, it's time to get my ears washed. Once you pour it in, kind of hold it because sometimes the excess will kind of fall out. And then after you pour it in, you just want to like gently massage. And that's what I was saying, like I know that feels good for him. So this is not like, I don't think it's something that Luke doesn't look forward to because he knows that he's going to get a massage. So you do that. And then once you have it all massaged, you're kind of just letting the ear wash go down and do its thing. break up the earwax like pieces. I know it's like kind of nasty when you think about it, but it needs to happen. You do that, and then usually what I do is I let go and I let him shake, and then he shakes out the water. But then I go in with like a cloth, like a dry washcloth or a paper towel. A lot of people use cotton balls, and just kind of like stick it down in there as deep as you can. It's not hurtful for the dog because pretty much like their ear canal, it goes like down vertically, but then it's like horizontal. So you're not really even penetrating obviously the horizontal part of their ear canal. So as long as you can dry it off to where you feel like you've done the best you can, you're good to move on to the other ear. All right, so I hope that video was helpful. I know that dog ownership can be really stressful at times, and so that's why we're here. We're here to share tips and just help you along your journey in what can be sometimes stressful in dog ownership.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.